Have an agenda before us. Ask if there's any changes, additions, corrections, deletions.
Have none, make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Item 2, County Attorney General discussion.
Legal requirements for posting of agenda.
The way I read that, we only have to post it in a public place and inform the media.
And anyone else who requests notice. I'll have to look at it.
According to this, public notice. Under 21.1. And it only has to be a tentative agenda. Tentative means not sure.
Okay.
Media is the only one we really have to inform, correct? The way that reads. Reasonable notice shall include advising the news media who have filed a request for notice and the governmental body and posting the notice on a bulletin board or other prominent place which is easily accessible to the public and clearly designated for that purpose. At the principal office, which would be upstairs.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then basically all the people we send the agenda out to is basically a courtesy.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Other than the news media.
Other than the news media, as long as they've sent in a formal request.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the question on that?
That was my question.
Oh, okay.
That came up last week.
Okay.
You need to actually inform of the agenda.
Talk to Carl on
Oh, I'm talking to my
I'll look to
I
make
just
sure.
started right.
And I'm
But I-
also
but I-
looking
You were down
at
south.
1.5.
But I'm pretty sure now that you say that, that is correct, because I know we had that issue with the landfill several years ago about some person that was demanding notice, and
Right.
it seems like now that you're bringing that up, I did the research, and you don't have to provide them with notice, it's just news media.
So basically, Lowell would not have to post that agenda till roughly 8:29 on Monday morning. And you could hang it up there in the office or on your bulletin board there, and that would be sufficient. And
And
notify,
send it out to the news media.
notify the news
Legally,
media
yes, that's it,
on Monday morning,
yes.
just as long as everybody understands that. That's
May I
my-
ask a question?
What else did you have, Mark?
I've got that resolution on the ATVs. Copy for everybody. I don't really know, other than the resolution, the part in section 3 that talks about where they can be operated. I don't really know if anything else legally means anything, unless you do it by an ordinance, because it talks about establishing a fine and all that stuff. Well, you can't do that in a resolution, you have to do that by ordinance. But this is what the other county did. I don't remember which county it was anymore now. Franklin County did. I'm not so sure, other than section 3, if anything really means anything. Because all of this stuff, this section 4 and all that, is right out of the Iowa code anyway, which is in the code. I mean, if you adopt it by resolution, all you're doing is saying, these are the roads you can drive on. Everything else is covered by the Iowa code anyway, unless you do a separate ordinance, which requires notice, publication, and public hearing.
I guess where they can be operated, I mean, the two concerns that I would have versus the Franklin County is just crossing from like gravel road to gravel road, crossing one of our hard surface roads, that be identified that we could do that. Because otherwise, and then the very last exit, access, whatever you want to call it, in order to go into a community. Because talking this morning earlier to Fuzz Dunley here at Osage, and also talking to a city council person at St. Ansgar, they said if the county goes with it, they felt the cities would go with it. But under, you know, what Franklin County had, there's no way that you can get into the city because almost, well, St. Ansgar would, there is one gravel road. But like Osage here, you couldn't come in from the northwest or lime kiln. I mean, everything is hard surfaced. It should be able to have that very last mile to where they could come at least get gas, and that would be my concerns, because our conservation officer, he would enforce it just strictly. I mean, if you just even crossed a blacktop, I know he'd write you a ticket if it doesn't.
So say they wanted to go to the staff or something, they couldn't get there.
They could, well, but that,
Down the ditch.
Yeah, right.
well, and the,
Legally.
and the staff is a state highway, they couldn't anyway, but like, I mean, let's say that was a county road. Not just for, like, let's say it was a county road, yeah, they couldn't get to the staff.
Well, they couldn't come down March either, because that's paved.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way to get to Osage if, under the, and I say most law enforcement would have no problem just understanding, you know, but like I say, you've got one or two that would be very particular.
So they can use gravel and then county blacktops within 1/2 mile.
Well, the last exit, or I don't know how you'd word that. I mean, you know, like lime kiln is over 1 mile long, but
Well, all of them are almost now to get into the city of Osage.
yeah, but I mean, that, the very last opportunity, you could use the very last opportunity or whatever to
But
be
there,
able to come to.
but then again, there you're gonna have to almost have the cities adopt some sort of resolution to allow them inside the cities, because that's their
Yeah,
jurisdiction.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we can get them up to the city limits, but that's as far as they could go.
I'll try and come up with something.
This is just for 6 months.
Right now it'd be from May 1st to October 31st. And then if it doesn't work, it just automatically sunsets.
Right,
Or we could kill it during the year if it doesn't work.
right.
How many-
Any trouble, that's what's gonna happen.
How many complaints is it gonna take to?
According to Franklin County, they didn't get any.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm just saying, do
Right.
we call it at 1 or 3 or 5 or?
I think it
There's
depends
none, I
on,
would hope
I
there
think
would
it
be none.
depends on too, what kind of complaints, I don't know, you kind of.
And there may well be none, and that's fine. I just wondered if you're gonna, where you wanna draw the line.
Well, it depends whether it's a person just riding an ATV or if it's a farmer.
No.
Well, let me ask this then, Mark, and I realize, as an elected county attorney, if you understand that something isn't right in the law, you won't, how do I wanna put it? Put something in a code that isn't enforceable or that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So would you want us to on penalties and that actually then have ordinance, or would you?
If you want to do something stricter than what the code says, then you'd need to do it by ordinance. And right off the top of my head, I don't remember what the code says.
The only thing that I saw was that they have a half an hour after sunrise to a half hour before sunset, and I think the code is the opposite. You can write a half an hour before sunrise to a half an hour after sunset. So this would be more restrictive.
If you're lit up properly.
Yeah. In my opinion, okay, this is just my opinion, they can put whatever they want to in this resolution. It's not going to be enforceable because they've done it by resolution, not by ordinance. In other words, the code says the county supervisors can allow, after doing a study, they can allow them to drive on roads. So that's what you're doing. You're designating the roads they can drive on. If you want to make stricter penalties than what are in the code, then you need to do that by ordinance, not by resolution. So in other words, what it says you can do by resolution is designate the roads they can drive on. So in my opinion on this, really the only thing that they're doing is they're designating the roads they can drive on. Anything else isn't enforceable.
Well,
It is to the effect that if somebody's violating any of this, we'll just rescind the
Yes.
resolution.
Right.
And then you're back to square one.
Right.
well,
But let's say you wrote a ticket to somebody under this, section 6. They can say, show me where that was passed by ordinance. Show me where the public hearing was.
Yeah, I understand.
There wasn't any, you can't.
but
enforce
it's enforceable as long as, if they would pay the fine and don't fight it. I
Right.
mean,
That's correct.
but like you say, as soon as somebody fights it,
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
go under the code, because there's a
Yeah.
code section, there's violations in the code. I don't remember what the penalties are, though. I don't remember what they are.
Well, even if we did pass this and allowed that, if there was a violation, then they could be charged under the Iowa code, correct?
right,
Unless, yes, they can be charged under the Iowa code if it violates the Iowa code. In other words, let's say you put something more restrictive than the Iowa code in here. In other words, I think you said, Stan, this allows for less hours.
yeah.
And so somebody was driving within that half-hour period and you wrote them a ticket under here. But it's not a violation under the code. And then they fought it. I don't think they could be convicted. Because you did it by resolution. And the code says, basically by resolution, you can designate the roads that they can drive on. So really, I think the only thing that means really anything in this is section 3. If I was doing it, I would just do section 3. And do it as a resolution. Because all this other stuff is right out of the Iowa code anyway.
So if we did just section 3, the Iowa code still would be in effect,
Yes.
and all we would be doing is,
Designating the roads that they can drive on. Yes. Now, they still can't cross a state highway
Right.
unless the county applies for and gets permits. So they can drive up to 9, they can drive up to 218, but they can't cross them.
the only other thing I was seeing is May 1 to October 31st.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's,
Well, what that is so this thing would just automatically sunset.
what if you had June 1 to September 1?
And then August, you'd decide if it worked.
Right.
And if it didn't, you'd just let it sunset, and just by its nature, it's going to die.
Well, what I'm looking at here is harvest season, you know. Not that,
Yeah, I don't think this was put in to limit it to May 1st to October 31st. I think if it was going well, come October 31st, they'd come back in and just say, now it's effective forever. I think this was just put in to say, we're gonna try it for 6
Trial.
months and see how it works.
wasn't Franklin just 90 days at first?
60 or 90, yes,
Yeah, so
last year.
so then they came in and they extended it again to see how it worked.
Then they changed some stuff in their order, or their resolution.
I don't know if they changed much.
Okay. Well, people, they're riding out there now. I mean, it's not like they're. Well, what do you wanna do?
Well, I'll come up with some revised language that they can cross the blacktop and closest gravel intersection, they can ride that, the blacktop to the city limits, and come up with some new language, and I can email it to you. See what you think of that. But I would just say, forget about the rest of it, and just use section 3. That's my opinion. I mean, we can do the whole thing, I just don't think it means anything.
Well, I really feel the main thing is that we're gonna have to really get the word out that, hey, look, folks, I mean, this is a privilege. Ride them decently, this and that. The privilege can continue. If you don't, it's gonna be taken away. That's, I mean, it's really a matter of attitude versus whatever.
And in that ad, you should probably say that they can't cross these highways, because I know they will think that they can, you know.
Well, they will anyway.
Yeah, I know, but as soon as somebody gets run over by a semi, then
Semi wins.
Semi wins, you got
Even
that
when I
right.
pull up to a stop sign, Bob, and somebody's coming, I think twice.
We raised the IQ of the people of the county.
I've seen them out there now, going down the shoulder on 9, and then scooting across 2 lanes down to a gravel road. I've seen them coming over in Worth County, coming south, right on across Highway 9, you know, and.
Right, good example. They can do that.
No, these weren't, they didn't have any fellows with pitchforks with them.
I think what you're gonna see in the next couple of years, you have a few more counties. And again, the state's gonna decide that we have to have something uniform, and the state will come up with something that at least will have some uniformity to it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think they'll do some changing.
Janelle, did you have any question for Mark?
Yeah, I understand, you know, why we don't get the agendas published in the paper, because by the time Lowell gets it, you know, we're already a week behind with the way the press works and the printing date and everything. So as your courtesy to inform the people who want to be informed, if you're no longer gonna do that, will you please let us know ahead of time?
I don't think we're gonna discontinue that. I'm not gonna discontinue that.
Okay.
It's just kind of like to let everybody know it is a courtesy.
You'll still be on the list.
Thanks.
Anything else for Mark?
Nothing else? Okay.
Unless you want to stick around for the next piece of information here.
Stick around.
Do we need to put that on for an action item then next week?
If you think it'll be ready,
Well, if it isn't, we just don't
Yeah.
act.
yeah. You can go ahead and put that on if you want. Resolution so-and-so designating county roads for ATV use.
And probably want it listed as UTVs or whatever too, those like gators and that. I mean, they are really considered a separate, they're supposed to be,
I think this covers it with the number of wheels, doesn't it?
Yeah.
6 or 8 or.
Not less than 3 nor more than 6 low-pressure tires. So
Okay.
8,
that'd be it.
yeah, 8 on here.
Yep.
okay.
I think that covers it. I think
All
they
right.
want 6, I think, Gators.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks.
Item number 4 is agreements with the Valent Project. I see Kathy Showalter's
Good
here.
morning. Is Tom not?
Tom's not coming.
Okay.
He called this
Yeah,
morning and said,
Tom's, item 3, we
Still
have
waiting
to
for
table,
some
because Tom
stuff
is
from
not
Valent.
coming.
Okay, well, and that's one of the challenges we're having, so are we. We have not gotten consensus on the development agreement from Valent. I talked to John Danos again this morning. He will try to reach out to their attorney, and I'm going to ask Brenda about. I have had no, and Brenda's been the go-between completely. I've had no contact with Tom Green or their attorney, Dougal Stiegel, I think is his name.
Siegel Dougal?
So, John, and
Dougal.
Oh,
Dougal's his first.
yeah,
Dougal.
Dougal's his first name. So, and John, just said, I really am not the one driving this, but I'll make another call. We need to understand what their timing is because the MOU expires. Yes, tomorrow or, I wasn't sure if it was tomorrow or Thursday, and I left that file back in the office. So, but regardless, so we have a couple alternatives. We can amend the MOU one more time, put another date in there. We can sign, if they will agree to it, we can sign the agreement with stipulations that there are still sections that are still being decided. John will put that language in. I don't know if you want to do that. We can push them that they get this done this week and understand it's imperative about that. But if Tom doesn't, part of this is all the dance of the timing of the bidding for the tanks and the money for the county and everything predicated on the thought that there was going to be an approval of a sale next week. Is the board in agreement that there will be no sale unless these documents are signed?
That's my
I
opinion.
kind of feel that way.
Well, that's what I've been saying, but I thought I'd better check with you again because I didn't want
Just
to,
tell them to send a blank check and we'll be happy.
well, I didn't want to say that that was your position if that's not your position. And John said he is, he said, I have signed agreements that say this component to stipulate that it's signed, but you're not in agreement on everything. So we could have him put that in. Right now, to my knowledge, the only issue is this transferability. And we talked about that last week. And the original agreement said that if they chose to sell or transfer the ownership of the facility, you would have the ability to approve the transfer. Their contention is you should not have that ability, but they will notify you if that is to happen. If that's the way it's rewritten, then the next section goes away because it pertains to agreement. So,
What would be why would we want to be able to approve it?
to me, it's perfectly acceptable to make the change they were suggesting, that they would notify you, that you still have somebody who's going to be paying taxes, you still have all those components in place. I don't remember, do you, Mark? I don't think the incentives automatically transfer. I think that's your decision. But having worked on the other side of it, having worked for a number of entities that do end up selling or transferring the assets and then coming to the county, the hope is that you'll transfer the assistance. In this case, you will, because you need your bonds paid off. John is the one who's pushing back on it, Joel.
Well,
He hasn't told me why he wants to push back on that. He said he won't, it's not something you're going to die on that sword. But he said, the last week's conversation with John, he said, well, when I asked them why this was important to them, they had to run it back up their legal chain and figure out why it was important. So,
my thing is they'd be trying to sell it to like a Jack DeCosta or somebody like that. Somebody that wouldn't properly maintain, take care of it. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
So,
I could see both sides.
Yeah,
I could see
see.
why they want it in, and I could see why the county doesn't want it in. I mean, I can see why they say, man, if we want to transfer this thing, we need to be able to transfer it. We don't want the county to be able to say, no, you can't. On the other
But
hand,
if you read that, it says we'd have to have a real good reason to say they couldn't. I mean, 'cause it goes into that language reasonable, a reasonable person.
which means you're gonna end up in court.
Okay, here's my other thought, okay? Say this thing all falls apart, you know, in this memorandum of understanding, how many years would it be before we'd see our $377,000? Just because you signed that memorandum of understanding doesn't mean,
Probably never.
well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, you'll end up in court for eternity, you know?
Well, when these things go under, they go under and the
Okay.
county's just out their money. That's the way it is. I mean, you can have all the agreements in the world you want, but if they don't make it financially, you're not getting paid. You know, they make all these guarantees, so many jobs, we're gonna pay so much money, and if things go bad, you're not gonna get paid. That, you might as well just, no matter what you put in there, you're not getting paid, because if they don't have money, you're on the bottom of the list. All the secured creditors getting paid before you, and if they don't have money, how they get paid?
That's why I think it's imperative that we get these agreements all signed before we borrow $12.75 million. You know, I mean, just if it's,
As your attorney, I would say you want a signed agreement before you borrow. Now, things, you may borrow money and things just may go perfectly.
and that could be very well true, but on the other hand, she had wards.
Well, in the worst case on one of the projects, and it was, I came in as they were working on the second one, but it was 3 years after the project was up and running, and they still didn't have the development agreement. And the ones who won were the attorneys, because they fought it for 3 years, and the bills must have been unbelievable. And it was a viable operation, they were doing what they said, but there were just sticking points. So anyway, I guess we don't have to beat this any further, but we have no agreement to sign. The pre-treatment, somehow that, they didn't get it when I thought they were gonna get it, but then after they had it a couple days, they asked for it in a Word document because they'd like to make some markups. That's fine, but we're kind of under the same thing, is whether you want that agreement signed before you borrow money. They're not exactly the same thing. No, I just want to make sure I removed everything. They're not exactly the same thing, but there would be, you know, some components of it. The third one is the lease between the city and the county. You certainly could approve that this morning, but if there's no project, I'm not sure what you're leasing, what you, the two governmental bodies are agreeing to lease. So that would certainly be up to you.
Well, it's like Tom said this morning too, he said we need to get going on those tanks if we're gonna save this money, and
Well, and the other piece of Tom's is that is the real reason why I had to chat with him also, is because as part of your development agreement, we have that special assessment district. Special assessment district says, in order to put that in place, that the county has reviewed the specs and plans for the project. And then, just like a street project or any other kind of project, Tom will have to set up an assessment roll, which in this case should be easy. It's one name and one amount. But John's saying and so I asked him, are you preparing the assessment petition? Because that really does go hand in hand with this development agreement. They need to sign that, they need to submit that. And he said, well, he can't do that until Tom gets more information. And so Tom's saying he can't get information because Valent hasn't provided it. So we're kind of in this swirling vortex of, and on the same token, Barb wants some money. So I don't know if we start that conversation with Jeff Heil about doing something short-term, so there's money this fiscal year, if this doesn't all get signed in the next week. So.
Let's just say the bond hearing's set for next week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say you go ahead and you issue the bonds and you get the money. we know everything's not gonna go to half, but let's just say
Right.
it does. You just turn around and you pay the bonds off.
Sure.
Turn around, pay the bonds off, and you're out.
Well, you can't pay them off, usually there's a call date.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say, call
7,
date,
you
yeah.
know, 7 years,
Yeah,
so,
And they're collecting 4% interest and we're getting 1.5 at the
Yeah.
bank.
yeah.
Right.
But they're not gonna stop moving dirt just because we don't issue the bonds or we do issue the bonds. I mean, they're still going full bore out there. Nobody's slowing down just because we don't have signed agreements.
Well, somebody's getting paid then, aren't they?
Yeah. So my advice is, you can do either way.
yeah, we're just full of good advice, aren't we?
I'm the one-arm economist, on the other hand.
Yeah. 5 fingers.
Well, in one respect, I think it goes back to what you've said many, many, many a time. You know, we looked at this company, we felt that this was a viable company, we felt it's an honorable company, we feel that they have a product that's going to be in demand in the next 10, 20, 30 years unless something really changes. I mean, we basically, I think we feel good about this company, and I don't know that, again, that, like you've said many, many times, I mean, a 100-page document, if you're dealing with somebody that you can't trust, isn't enough, and I would feel comfortable right now going forward with, just because I really feel the company is honorable and
Yeah.
I'm not doubting that at all.
yeah, no, I'm just,
In business,
I understand, but
business is business. You want loyalty, you buy a dog. You know? I mean, that's my feeling. We're the bankers or the first keepers of the county.
So, what about borrowing money? You
And
want-
put it on for next week. We'll see if we got any signed agreements.
Okay, but I mean, should I put, or Lowell, do you want to put Jeff on notice? I mean, I really have nothing to do with the borrowing of money. I
How
mean,
much does
that's-
Barb need?
Should be in here in a little bit.
We can take out a loan at the local bank. Where does that
So we
go?
did that with Carpenter.
Yep.
We did a short-term financing.
You know, then we can
That,
always
that or
pay.
we don't pay bills till we get the money.
Right, and then we always pay that off. They're not callable at the local bank. We can just pay it whenever, you know, we get the money back in.
When we
Pay
get
them a little bit of interest
with
and
the loan. What is the date of the bond hearing?
Well, it's supposed to be June 5th,
next week.
next Tuesday.
So if we don't buy bonds, then we have to publish again, correct?
I think you could,
I don't know how,
I think you could table it. Table your action to the next meeting.
I would say let's just see how fast they move.
The holiday weekend, maybe
Well,
things
that was
got
part
pushed
of it.
back a
And
little bit,
That's
too.
what,
Brenda said something, Brenda sent an email, I think, Sunday, saying, oh, gosh, when the attorney's out of town Thursday and Friday, I wondered if it would be a problem. Well, I didn't know that the attorneys, it would have been a problem. I mean, that was a problem we could have anticipated with them being out of town. And a holiday week, this is a short week too, so.
never done days. No, I think it's a good project, but I'm not, I just think there's ways.
So then,
You don't
just
mind.
moving, just as a point, the urban renewal plan consultation hearing is today at 11. I'm happy to stick around, I'm not sure you need me to do that. You know, last consultation hearing, no one showed up,
right.
so
You said that's at 11 today,
it's 11, yeah.
so I can handle that.
Okay,
otherwise,
great.
Sam.
I just talked to Mark, planning and zoning does clarify they do have to have a meeting to review the plan amendment. And so he will try to schedule that for June 5th or June 12th.
And what was this for again?
The urban renewal plan amendment
Okay.
that John prepared. So just know it'll be one of those days. Okay. Is there anything else? And I'll try to keep you as best informed as I can.
Okay, item 5, I guess Milt's not coming in today, but
Right, and I think you have a picture there of what plans are. Is it in your packet? Maybe not.
Where's the new hire? Can he show up?
Well, I think this is, yeah, I don't know if Milt had to be out of town somewhere. And I think when there's a Monday holiday, they take it as Tuesday. Or as part of their, because they're never not open.
I'm not open on Monday.
Yeah, they do 4/10, so
But Milt had told me there, the DNR has been asking them to do a berm around that waste oil. I think that's right there near the building there, and they need some drainage. He just talked with Heartland Asphalt of doing some asphalt there. He says he's got probably $3,000 left in his budget this year he could use for that. The estimated cost is probably gonna be $7,000, a little more, so he would do,
Just about 8.
yeah, do part of it in this fiscal year and the rest after July 1.
Split it up.
Yeah. But he says the DNR has been pushing on that, so he says we need to take some action.
So what is he really asking for us? He's asking for us to foot the bill and then he's gonna repay us at,
No, he just, he would pay part of it right now, and then the rest he'd come out of his budget next year.
His new budget.
What's his board say about it?
Yeah, I don't think we had,
I don't think-
this is just discussion here.
wasn't discussed at,
Well, I think it's up to his board to make the decision. Here it's just on for discussion.
I mean, if he's gonna be paying for all of it and that, I don't know why we even have to be part of this.
Right.
Yeah, it's just discussion on here, so he
I
just
think
probably
just make you
wanted
aware of it.
to make us aware of what was happening,
All right.
so noted. On to item number 7, approval of the minutes. Just had that one change
I'll make
in there
that change, I
on
see
the,
that there. Sorry about that.
Second paragraph,
Yep.
it's seconded by Boaklander.
Yeah, I read it, I have no problem.
What's your motion?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of May 22nd, 2012. Roll call vote, Walk,
Aye.
Boaklander.
Aye.
Morale, aye, motion carried. Item 8, items of note. Meetings attended. Didn't have any.
Yeah, County Economic Development, you want me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Right. That was last Thursday, 4 o'clock. Approved finances, minutes, staff. On the staff report, Brenda had visited many of the existing business sites. You know, she always goes to them, you know, finds out their concerns and what's going on. Housing, Charles City applied for 30 units at $150,000, and now they don't know whether or not that guy is going to follow through on that, so there may be a new round of housing coming along on those spec homes. Enterprise zone, there's some new changes. We may be able to move some of the land. I think Mitchell County had 54 acres into the enterprise zone, and some of that now may be redesignated to different areas. And there's also some language there as to being able to extend the time on other ones up to maybe possibly 10 years, I guess. We were notified that Katie is gonna relocate to Minneapolis, so we're probably gonna need a part-time person there to fill in.
Yeah, I seen that. Brenda emailed me on that, so.
Yeah, sorry to lose her.
Yeah, she's had, how many years she been on? 4?
Oh yeah, at least, she's been,
4 years? I mean, she's got some experience under her belt.
yeah, at least 4 years, Bob. Yeah. Well, that's what she said. She finally got something she can put on her resume when she headed for out of town, but anyway. So then on Thursday went down to Heartland. Our new TPA is going well, and there will be training coming around all the counties. Under the loss control side, they voted to buy a new DVD for $1,000 on the sexual harassment. Yeah, they're anywhere from $750 to $1,000 in that. And Judy will be coming around all the counties to do the sexual harassment training again this year. I'll try to be able to attend. Not that I need any pointers or nothing, you know. But anyway, Gallagher gave the renewal presentation that day. A lot of, I think, Genesis went up maybe 3 or 5%. And we voted to Connor Nash to do the audit again, and by the numbers, we'll do the actuarial review. Okay, and then CSS meeting. Oh, Bob was there. Gave a presentation on the state redesign. Minimum 3 counties. We can go to 47.28 per person on the amount we levy. Is that correct, Bob?
Well, that's the state's kind of benchmark that they're going to try to equalize across the state. So Mitchell County is actually levying over the 47.28, so it should mean reduction in property tax next year about $100,000.
Right. And the state didn't approve any money this year, correct? And maybe next year they'll backfill.
Well, it's complicated. They realigned the funding. They took all the Medicaid liability back to the state. They actually put $40 million new dollars into the system, so
Okay.
no new money to the county, but less liability to the counties.
Right. And then we voted to approve taking Howard, Chickasaw, Humboldt, Cassuth, and Pocahontas counties into our group.
4 more, or is that 4 or?
Yeah. 5.
5 more?
Okay. And that was it.
The only thing I really had is, I did sit in on Hospital Board of Trustees meeting. I thought it was rather interesting again when they had this agreement with Mercy, and basically it had to do with critical access. In any event, Mercy said that for their share they would provide networking, and for Mitchell County Regional share they would provide the hardware and software. And basically nobody asked the question, well, what could this cost us? I mean, you know, hardware and software anymore can run into the thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nobody even asked the question, is this just going to be exclusive for our institution? Is it going to be able to be used for others? I mean, again, I'm very disappointed that they don't have an attorney look some of this stuff over to ask some of the questions that really need to be asked when they're making these kind of agreements. That's my report.
One other thing at Heartland, and I'd never heard of this before, but the legislature did pass, I was going to ask Mark this morning too, that all 28Es have to do a biannual report to the state. I don't remember doing any biannual report. I was going to ask, it's
Another unfunded mandate that
biannual reports for 28Es. And on that watershed agreement, entities are not covered. They need their own insurance.
That means we'd have to have our own.
Well, that 28E that we're gonna join up with, you know, with Floyd and Mitchell and whatever other counties, we need to have they should have their own insurance because they would not be covered under Mitchell County.
Oh, they wouldn't be.
Well, we're a part of it.
Yeah, but I mean, we have insurance for that? No, nobody has insurance
No.
for that.
That was brought up by Rick Holthouse from Chickasaw County, because Fayette County now was asking Carl all kinds of questions on because they're in the Wapsie, whatever watershed over there, in the same situation. And so they've retained Carl, but now I think the board now is, because there's so many counties that are in the pool, that they're gonna have, Carl's gonna come back with some information on this, and that was brought up, the biannual reports, the new, that the legislature just passed or whatever. They said Carl's probably one of the smartest 2080 attorneys in the state of Iowa, so hopefully by next month or something, we'll have some information on that. But it will affect all the other 2080s, because if you have to do a biannual report, that's every other year, correct? I got,
That's the way I hear it.
let's see. Anyway.
Item B, manure management plan updates.
I have two of them, one from Barsh Farms, Junction North in Section 23 in Wayne Township. And the other is from Newburgh Pork, Section 18 of Newburgh.
Okay, item C, request for proposal committee.
Well, that was just like all the rest of the lawyers last week. They didn't get very far down the road.
Yeah, there was another.
Not too many people around, so. Table it till next week.
Okay.
Second page.
Oh, okay, yeah, I missed that one. Yeah, we could move right up to that one there, Bob. I'm sorry.
This is the, do you have a copy of the, okay, yes. There's no changes to the policy, but as a matter of practice, every fiscal year we present the award sheet, is what you have there. And we're proposing just a couple changes if it's the pleasure of the board. The first one is to increase the rent assistance by $50. You see a sliding fee scale based on the number of the household. Most of our assistance goes to single individuals. We're currently at $200 rent assistance. We're asking to go to $250. Generally, and that very seldom will cover 1 month's rent, but we work very well with community action and churches and whatever to help folks put together the money they need for assistance. The other increase is utilities, and obviously that's just the cost of fuel impacting that. That was at $200 maximum, requesting going up to $250 on that. And then the same with the LP fuel. It's hard for us to get a delivery for 200 gallons, so what we're proposing is allowing us to go to 300 gallons, and then we'll count that as 2 times assistance. So under our policy, an individual can only get 1 assistance a month and 3 times throughout the fiscal year. And then the last increase is just the tooth extraction from $75 to $100. Again, it's just a matter of trying to find providers that'll be willing to do that for that amount of money. But other than that, the others remain the same. And these aren't, this hasn't been adjusted for quite some time, so this is by no means an annual thing.
Yeah, about a couple of years anyway.
Yes. I'll make a motion to approve these changes and approve the general assistant benefit schedule.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the Metro County General Assistant Benefit Schedule effective July 1st of this year. Roll call vote. Volklander?
Aye.
Bach?
Aye.
Morrell? Aye. Motion carried.
How many folks do you think in Metro County fall into this category?
How many people we provide assistance to, or how many people? Gosh. We expend about $20,000 to $30,000 a year in assistance. So, oh gosh, I'm guessing. I will get you a formal annual report. But
Well, I'm just discussion.
right, I'm guessing probably 100.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I'd say ballpark. And probably the biggest money we expend are those individuals that are pending disability. So under Social Security rules, individuals sign an agreement, and then we provide their basic needs. And then if they're later approved for Social Security, the county recovers that money. And you've asked me some questions on other folks with assistance that eventually did get approved for disability, and all that money was returned to the county. And so that's a way that we can provide immediate assistance while people are pending that long-term federal assistance. And so it's a very effective program in kind of filling the gaps or the safety net, if you will. But it's not a big expenditure.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Exit interview with Leonard Burcham, CPA firm. Next. Welcome.
Good morning.
Well, he didn't bring the sheriff along, that's a good sign.
That's always a good sign.
Yes.
Well, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I guess the purpose here is just the kind of the exit conference on the report, and what I'd like to do is the format is the same as it's been in past years, so you gentlemen are familiar with the layout of the report, and I would just like to go through, maybe hit just a few high points of the report, maybe focus attention in some specific areas, and just a general layout of what the report includes. If you have any questions or comments or anything anytime. I would start out if you, just a kind of, I'll just go through from the front to the back. Just pointing out page 4 is our independent report, and the only thing my comment will be that it's an unqualified report, so the financials are in conformity with the accounting principles required. We have, starting page 6, we have management's discussion and analysis, and we're not going to go through and read this line by line. I would just direct your attention to page 8. It gives you a little bit of an overview on some of the financial analysis. The top part of it kind of lays out a little bit of the net assets of all your government activities expressed in thousands of dollars. The top part of that being the assets, and the middle part being the liabilities, and then the change in the net assets. And this is a comparative report. The right-hand column is the year ended June 30th of 2010, and the left column is the year ended June 30th of 2011. Biggest change when you look at the top part there would be the two areas would be the increase in the current and other assets from 2010 to 2011, with the offsetting increase in the debt from 2010 to 2011. And then you can see at the bottom the total net assets changed from $10,977,000 at the end of the prior year to $9,425,000 at the end of this year that we're looking at here. And you can see the bottom part then is the changes in net assets of the governmental activities, and it lays out an overview of the program revenues for the 2 years compared to the program expenses for the 2 years. Third line from the bottom shows you the change in the net assets for the year. Last year there was an increase of $453,000. This year it's a $1,552,000 decrease, and then you see again the net assets at the bottom number there for the last 2 years. Page 9 has some little bit of breakdown near the bottom there on the makeup of your capital assets, which are those are the largest grouping, if you will, of the assets of your entities, and this is a little bit of breakdown here showing just broke out between land, buildings, improvements, equipment, vehicles, and the infrastructure for the total. And then shows the bottom sentence that gives depreciation expense for the last 2 years. The basic financial statements start on page 12. Again, an overview of this, Exhibit A is your statement of net assets, and this gives more detail as we get into the report. It starts out with kind of an overview, a summary of everything, and then as you work your way back through the report, you get more and more detail about the makeup of those individual items. And this page 12 shows you the assets and the liabilities, and again the net assets with the total net assets at the bottom of the 9,424,000. Exhibit B is your statement of activities, and this kind of gives you information on where are the revenues coming from and where are the related expenses. And then page 14 is your balance sheet by, and this one is by your major funds. So this kind of gives you, again, a little more detail about what's going on, so you can kind of see where the assets are located by fund and where the liabilities are at by fund. Again, when you look at that, you can see that your capital projects is the major, is the largest one, followed by secondary roads. Those two make up the largest part of this. The notes to the financial statements start on page 19. And those run through pages 19 through 35, and we've kind of skipped over some other pieces of information, but I always want to make the comment that the notes to the financial statements are a very integral part of these financial statements, and they really give you, it's kind of, I always look at it as kind of the meat of the report, because it really gives you the background on where are these numbers coming from, and what do they mean, and how should I be interpreting some of the things I'm looking at. So they help fill in a lot of that. So I always encourage the reading of those. Just a couple things, for example, that you'll see in there. It just lays out a lot of the assumptions. For example, if you start on page 25, that'll give you some information if you want to revisit. So what did we do for interfund transfers last year? Okay, that's going to be on page 25. What were the increases and decreases for our various capital assets? And that's going to be on page 26. I'll kind of give you some background on that. And if you wanted to see what's an overview of our long-term debt activity, how did that play out for us this last year? Page 27 gives you your increases and decreases for that. And then pages 28 through 31 will break down all that debt for you as far as when was it initiated, what is it, what's our repayment terms, what's our obligations to be revolving this debt. And then there's just a lot of other additional information in there. And page 37 starts with required supplementary information. And there's just again, it's more detailed information about the activities, revenues, expenses. last thing I would touch on would be, starting on page 47, it's our report on internal control of financial reporting and compliance and other matters. And we basically kind of lay out here kind of how we approach this as far as looking at internal control and conclusions we came to on that. And then we've got on our scheduled findings beginning on page 49. These are pretty much the same findings, and it's a lot of it has to do with looking at segregation of duties and preparation of full disclosure financial statements. And your situation is the same as pretty much everybody's. You don't have the personnel to be able to accomplish some of these things. And in visiting with your people, I know that they're aware of it. I know that they're conscientious about it, and I know that they're working at it and trying to get the separation, for example, and doing as much of that as they can, given the fact that we have to, there's some restrictions that they're going to be running into, just because you can't afford to go out and set up for example, three new full-time positions to accomplish these segregations. So you're always going to be butting up against that, and that's not going to change. I guess my only comment there would be as long as everyone is aware of that and they keep that in mind as day-to-day activities are being processed and as oversight is being done to kind of oversee what's going on. Keeping that in mind, I think that's as good as you're going to get it. So. But any information we asked for, anything we needed, it was forthcoming. The records were in good condition, and it's working.
We're good for another year?
Good for another year, yes. Yes.
Good news.
Very good, thank you kindly, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate working with you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I got a question.
Sure.
Under Chapter 11, it's required that a 2080 if they have asset or revenues over 100,000 per year, they need to do an official audit.
Yes.
Okay. And I know sheriff firm did the one for the Mitchell County Economic Development.
Yes.
Okay. Is that all 2080s or just special 2080s? The reason we give to, the county gives money to, well, for instance, the Ag Society. They are a part of the 2080, and their assets are probably over, I don't know what, $200,000 a year. But we do not see an official audit from those folks.
Okay.
Is that a problem?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but I think it's something that we should take a look at.
Well, the reason it came up in Mitchell County Economic Development, the city of Osage gives X amount of dollars every year to economic development, and their auditor, the red flag went up, and they said, and she called us over there, and she says, unless you do one, I'll have to write the city up for funding that, because they don't do they don't do what's required by law. In Chapter 11, you have to do that.
In general, the 20Es, when they exceed $100,000, they need to be taking a look just to.
Right, and it specifically says in the law that they do. So that's why I'm asking. We fund them to the tune of $35,000 a year. So,
Okay, and this, which one is this?
Economic development.
Oh, okay.
no, it's the Ag Society.
Well,
Yeah.
like you said, 35,000.
No,
We get more than that.
More than that for that, okay.
but they come in and ask us for the 35.
35 for
Ag.
Ag Society, right?
So you believe they have exceeded that?
So is that though, we're not really in a 28E with the Ag Society, are we?
No.
I
It's
mean,
any
we're-
2080.
No, but what I'm saying, I guess where I'm coming from on that, if we're not involved with the 28E and the Ag Society, even though they may have, the Ag Society may have something to do with another,
With some other organization.
other organization, I mean, as long as we're just giving money to this Ag Society, and we're not part of a 28E, does it really then have to concern us? I mean, does that make sense,
No,
Joel? You see what
why would it have concerned the city if they gave it to them too, because they're not,
I don't know. You always have, you know, if you have 4 different attorneys in a room, you're gonna have 4 different results.
At least 4.
well, the problem is, Mitchell County Economic Development went over by probably $2,000 and $100,000. Well, you know as well as I do what it costs to do an audit. Now, these other entities are running around, and they're not doing these audits. And they're probably getting more money than economic development over there. What I'm saying is it proper for the county to fund these folks who are asking for money from the county taxpayers, and yet they're not following what the law prescribes?
Okay, that, now, to some degree, that may depend on, that may depend to some degree on what the arrangement is and how it's being funded through, but in general, it would seem that if your only connection with them is you're giving them funds, then it would seem that the onus would be on them to make sure that they're in compliance with whatever rules, regulations that they have to operate under. But now, and for example, that would be different. Let's say, for example, that you, as a county, received funds from the state or the federal, and you took those funds and then you sent them on through for something that was within the framework of what services you are providing, then the onus would be on you to make sure that they're using those funds the way they're supposed to be using them. But that wouldn't necessarily be the same thing as when they hit a threshold for an audit, for example. So there are some different rules out there. Again,
We're not 28E with the Ag Society. They are a 28E with CRC and all the rest of the group that they signed up with.
Well, and I wonder if the difference isn't like with economic development. We send a member to the Economic Development Board. I mean, so we are part of a 28E with them.
Right.
Whereas like the Ag Society, like you say, we have no affiliation other than they come with their hand out and we cross their palm with silver and we send them back home for another year.
yeah, see, and it would seem that would be the key, would be what responsibility would you have, and if you have no
We have no oversight on how,
oversight.
once they receive that money, we really have no oversight. We're not part of any.
We're not part of their group.
Right, and what I was talking about earlier, just to rephrase it another way, if the state or the federal government sent money down to the county and they said, we're gonna give you this money, but here's how it has to be spent, and then you send that on through to another agency or organization out here, then you have the responsibility to make sure that they're spending it the way it was mandated that it be spent. Now you would have that responsibility, but we're not talking about that. It sounds like we're just talking about you've got your funds and somebody's knocking on the door saying, yeah, we've got a very worthwhile mission here, and can you help us with it? And you write them a check for it, but that's your total. That's your total input into it. It would seem that their responsibility would be to make sure that they're following their guidelines as to what they're supposed to be doing. But that onus would not be on.
That's not on us.
On you.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay. Thanks. Well, you gotta ask questions.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with it.
That was a state law then, 28Es, that was?
Right, chapter 11,
no.
isn't it? 28E that has revenues of over $100,000 needs to do an annual audit with a certified public accountant in the state of Iowa.
And that's a real challenge for some of them that just spike up once and then drop back again. As your comment now, maybe we've gone over by 2,000, but after the audit, that's going to pull us down a lot more than that. So it's
So if you don't make it to the 100,000 in that year, you don't have to do an audit. That's the way I'm reading
Right,
that.
correct, correct. Yeah, so you might have an organization that maybe has to do one, and then they might not have another one for it. By the time another one comes around, that they require to do it, anyone that might have been there that knew it was required might be long gone, so then they're kind of in the dark again.
So in other words, what we really should maybe be doing, especially with economic development, is if they are running close to that 100,000 and they have a special projects, instead of providing them money to do the special projects, maybe we should be doing the special projects so they don't run over. You know, basically it's the same.
100,000?
Yeah, so that saves them how many thousands of dollars, not because, and what we used to do is every year we'd have one city clerk, one banker, and I think then was it one person from either the board or, and you know, they would go through the books. And so it wasn't a matter that we weren't going through their books.
So you're having oversight.
Yeah, it's just that we weren't having a certified CPA doing it,
Sure.
and yet again, I mean, we were fully aware of what was going on with that organization, not having the, you know, little organization, $6,000 on a $99,000 budget. It's a lot of money, you know, to
Yes, it is.
spend for.
Yes, it is. And in the case of the economic development corporate, it sounds like they've actually moved to a higher plateau, and they're going to be staying there because the increased activity that they've got going on. So to them, to me, it doesn't sound like they're going to be one of these that spikes one year and then it's back under the weights. It just appears that they've got enough things going on that they're at a different level.
All came out of that CTAC thing, I think. That's what I was told.
Right, yeah. Now everybody's guilty.
Yeah.
Until proven innocent,
Until
you
proven
know.
innocent, yeah.
It's like going through the airport again, we're all terrorists.
Until we can.
Until you prove you're not.
Well, the problem with all of this stuff is you have one problem and then they try to do a solution for everybody, and I mean, it really ends up being more costly. And
Yes, unintended consequences
yeah.
is what you end up with.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
We need a motion to accept the audit or not?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
All right, motion to accept the audit.
Second?
Do a motion and a second to approve the audit for Rainer Burcham for fiscal year 12? 11. One behind. Roll call vote, Wolflander?
Aye.
Wow.
Aye.
Burrell, aye. Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, I sincerely appreciate it.
Supervisors, auditor, any comments written or oral?
Aye.
Item none?
No.
None? I'll open this up to the public, I guess. Public hearing. Any comments from the public? Eddie?
Well, I'd ask you about, I just noted that the revenues from the sheriff's department were $38,500, but there was an increase in expenditures of $56,500, and just thought, as long as Kurt's here, why?
Well, unforeseen expenses would be the quick explanation. We're going to be narrow banding all the radio system, which that's coming in over budget. We had a lot of extra expense with this murder case that we had this year. It's just a combination of factors.
Like overtime and stuff? Or?
Yes.
And I see the revenues were way up, $1,400,000 to non-departmental things. Could you refresh my memory on how, I know you always underestimate revenues and overestimate expenditures, but,
Well, a lot of that's because that's if we borrow money,
okay.
you know, then I have to put that in to show.
So there was,
revenue.
yeah, okay,
So that's just anticipated yet.
okay, okay,
To be continued next Tuesday.
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure the increase was same, I mean, on like the Valent and so on, and, yeah.
Right. And we already have some costs due to the attorney fee, engineer fee.
Sure.
Consultant that we didn't have in the budget, so we have to.
And then I think something that was mentioned, Joel or Bob, I don't know if one of you mentioned earlier, before the meeting even started, we were talking about mental health, I guess when Penny was talking. And you said in the budget, you had thought, tell me about the mental health. You thought they were going
Well,
to,
the state didn't fund it, or they weren't going to fund it. I think it was 48 million they were asking to be funded for, and they were only going to go up to 40 million.
Yeah.
So there was this 8 million gap that the counties were gonna have to make up. And so we had to change our budget, and I believe we took 3% out of the sheriff's budget at that time to fund this mental health thing, but then about a week or so later, then the state said, we are going to put in the 8 million, so.
but it actually shows an increase of $600,000 under expenditures to the mental health department.
Yeah, part of that was that bill or something that you guys talked as the group, and that was over 800 and some thousand, and we didn't have that in the budget. We only had 615. There's Bob, you can explain.
Oh, he can answer it.
Sure.
Well, the increase,
The
Bob, of the
600,000.
600,000 to mental health department, I was just wondering what that,
Yeah, what the budget amendment does for the mental health services is actually increases the amount that we can access in the reserves. What happened last year, because the pool had enough money, we didn't draw the dollars that were in the fund last year. So this year we're running down a little tighter, and we need to draw some of the reserves. So that's why we're increasing it by that 600,000. There is no increase in property tax or
no, I
revenue.
understand that,
Yeah.
yeah. But, and that may not all be spent either, right? But you're just
Correct.
asking that that amount be in there till the end of the year in the event that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And actually, we made an error last year as a pool, because we started getting fiscal year 11 money, and we used that to pay for fiscal year 10 expenditures, and that created a pool deficit. So this year we have to make sure that we have enough FY 11 money in the collective account to pay all of our liabilities. As a pool, we're projecting about a $2 million reserve moving into next year. So we should be fine as a pool.
So in the pool, then do other counties, I mean, for instance, if there was more money in Mitchell County available in there, anybody in the pool can use other counties' dollars, is that correct?
Right, there's no distinction once the money goes into the
Okay.
pool. The obligation of the member counties is to levy their maintenance of effort, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the way we move dollars is we determine a per capita amount to keep at the member county's bank account, if you will. So under this formula we left, I think we're leaving about 50 or 60,000 that we may not draw.
And does Mitchell County, is their levy, well, I know Joel has mentioned $47.28, right, or whatever, 46 or 7 per capita.
Okay.
That's the new 47.28.
Okay.
Right, that's where it gets really complicated. The new law that passed is they determined across the state the county-funded services run about $47 per person. And so what the state is trying to do is to hold the property taxpayer harmless and then equalize the dollars available for those services. So if you're levying an amount that brings you above $47 per capita, the state's going to spend you down. If you're not levying enough to get up that, then the state's going to spend you up. So in Mitchell County's case, we won't get any additional money this year, but next year Mitchell County's levy should go down to that $47.28, so it should be a $100,000 decrease in property tax.
Is Mitchell County's, you know, when Joel's mentioned, you mentioned that ours was the highest, But do we have more people in, say, and I don't even know if you call them ICFMRs anymore or whatever, do we have more people than other counties in the very high-end spending?
No, if you associated a pattern of the high levy rate with the counties, what you'll find is that those are mostly counties that are operating a care facility or some such thing. So they weren't setting our levy at a net. They were setting it at a gross expenditure. So if you were operating an enterprise like the care facility, that brought your levy up. That's why Cerro Gordo was the other county that will actually see a property tax reduction. At the time that this all went into place in '96, they were running a care facility there too, and so that kept their expenditures up. So that's the main difference.
So are there a lot of tax dollars that go into the county care facility now? Or, I mean, with us, you know, limiting the number of people there so that we can access other funds?
What we did with the care facilities, we essentially moved them off budget. They're basically fee driven now, so they need to set their rates at an amount that maintains their operation, so that the county doesn't have to allocate any general fund or any non-designated dollars for that service. So that's why we review our contract to make sure county social services is paying a rate that is sufficient for their operation. And any other county can place somebody there and pay the same rate. And I must say they're doing a great job.
Good.
They're still competitive with the other providers, and actually they're positioned stronger than a lot of the other RCFs that are above the 16 beds, because now our care facility can fully access Medicaid funding, and we think that'll have some additional savings and viability for them as a program.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thanks.
Oh, the medical examiners, I see there was increase of 15,500, lots more cases, huh?
Yes, there is this year.
Especially with this murder case,
Yeah.
too. I didn't know what all that cost would be, because we've never had a murder in Mitchell County, you just don't know. So I'm just doing that to cover us.
Okay.
Hopefully we don't use it all.
Yeah, we've had quite a few this year.
But this last time I can amend the budget, so.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Are there any other questions? Thanks, Bob. If not, we'll close this portion of the public hearing. Move down to item 10, approval of appropriations resolution 828-12.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Walk, second by Volklander. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Volklander. Aye. Morrell, aye. Motion carried. Morning, Rich. Looks like you've been vacationing.
That was lawn mowing.
Oh.
Is it the tan or the?
Probably a vacation compared to being at the office.
Well, anything is.
What do you have?
What do we have? We have some guys working out on Primrose Avenue. We had found a few spots where we had some popped out concrete that we're patching today. Brian went over this morning to help Worth County on the AMZ machine. They're running it for now, and then we are looking at potentially maybe starting the rock run a little early. I'm going to talk with Falks, see if we can get some billing delayed until July so we can make that go. Otherwise,
Just here.
yeah, I know, he called me, wanted to know where I was at.
Oh, he was looking for you
Yeah,
this morning,
so.
sure.
Otherwise, we got the guys are out blading and then edging the pavement. We still got some roads to finish up with the edger, yep. So,
I see some of it's been done.
yep, we're covering about every blacktop we have, any hard surface we have. Some of them we're just we're using Worth County's disc, but a lot of it we're putting new rock on just because you can only disc so much before you start bringing the dirt in, so.
Well, I was glad to see that you got started on that early this year instead of September, because
Yeah, you know, really, there's some roads I don't know if we did many here, but I know in Worth County we did some in January when it was thawing out. It was so bad you could still pull stuff in, but some people don't like it when you slow them down. So, other than that, I'm missing a week in my head, so we'll get back on task this week.
Did we
When
ever,
you go on vacation.
Yeah.
determine the number of miles we're gonna rock this year?
I think we had about 40 miles per blade route, so that was like 120, I think. Is that right? No, 160 maybe. But I think we're just gonna do it ourselves. I think we've got the, now, since we spoke last, we have a retirement this week. Wayne's retiring at the end of this week, Tiger, and then, yep, and then we'll have one in September. I just got a phone call when I was on vacation that I'm losing another person. His wife took a job somewhere else and he's gotta move, so I think if you guys are okay,
That's 3 people.
yeah. I'm gonna put an advertisement out either this week or next week and just hire 3 people right away so we can get some of them trained in before the snow flies. And then, so we'll be running a little heavy here, but I think, the newest one will only be July or August and he'll be gone. And then we'll, so I mean, it's no fun to lose good people, but Kevin Christensen, his wife got a job out in Palo Alto County. So,
He hasn't been with us that long.
he's been here for quite a while.
Oh, he's been out there a long time?
He's in our Raceville, in our Raceville shop. He's been around for a while, good worker. So, and I hope things work out for him. It just so happens that they've got an opening in that county, so I hope everything works out well for him. I'm gonna put out an advertisement, we're gonna hire, if you guys are okay, I think we'll just start getting 3 people lined up right now, because we're gonna need them anyway. So,
Oh, yeah.
so that's the good news. Other than that, we'll have a short week. The guys will be off on Friday again, so it's maintaining. Nothing major that I know of. I haven't been to the office yet, so.
Weed commissioner been out there at all?
I don't know. I haven't been out there. I don't know if he's been out yet or not.
Didn't know.
But we're gonna start, I think, probably next week we'll start probably getting the mowers out too. It's getting pretty shaggy out there. I'm looking at potentially getting some prices on a disc mower, something we can throw behind that John Deere tractor, and maybe, you know, the grass being high, those regular rotary mowers, they kind of can go slow, but I think a disc mower is kind of like what they cut hay with, and they can handle that longer stuff and it'll speed things up. So I might look into one of those. I'm hearing they're around $7,000 or $8,000, but if I do anything, it won't be till next fiscal year, or after July. But sure, I think it's nice to have another piece of equipment around, just to, if we need to get caught up, we can get caught up. If one mower's down, they can work on the gravels too. So just something to lay the grass down and get moving. This grass started growing a lot earlier, but we're still tied down to so many hours per year for anybody working temporary part-time. So want to utilize them as late as we can in the year so that we get that last cut in the fall. Do you guys have anything?
I received thank yous for the bridge up by McIntyre.
Good.
Said you guys did a nice
They
job
did a
on
great
that.
job up there. It looks really good.
Was the welding done in-house?
Yep. Other than we had them patch the holes where we ordered the pipe. They have inspection holes in the pipe and stuff, and we thought, you know what, for, I don't know, it was like $300 a pipe, that they'd patch the holes up. We couldn't finish it, so everything else was done in-house, yep. I think they did a really good job. It looks really good. What's that?
What do you do for welding?
Well, we weld the plate steel in the face of the pipe, so we've got like a wall. The water hits, doesn't erode around them.
Okay.
We put a steel facing and we put an I-beam on top to retain the rock, so it looks kind of like a faced-off culvert. So
Do you need a new welder?
we rented one, but
Stick welder.
what's that?
A stick welder?
Yeah, we did rent a stick welder because the wire feeds don't
Wire
work.
feed don't work too good?
Not on that heaviest stuff. It doesn't work as well.
Okay.
So we did rent one.
Okay. I just wondered.
And if you Meek had one that he didn't use very often. We rented it for, I don't remember what it was. If it was 50. I don't even remember what the price
Yeah,
was.
no,
I
it's
looked at the
not
blue book.
important.
It wasn't a whole lot of dollars, but it was very bad. It worked well for us. Yeah, we rented one. We do have welders, but I think this one was portable, more portable than ours, so. And I'm still, I'm working on, that website yet to get rid of some equipment that we have laying around. We still got that loader sitting out there. We've probably got some pickups. I'm gonna experiment with, Worth County's got a generator. It's got 60 hours on it, but it's a 1964 model. Well, 60 hours on a generator in that many years, I don't think we need to have it around, so. I'm gonna try this. It's a website, and I think what we'll do, if we sell anything in either county, we'll let the people know locally that we're advertising on this website. It's an auction site. And that way they still have a chance to bid on the equipment. But I think on our end, we can get more people to look at the equipment, maybe get better numbers for selling stuff. Whether we keep it local or not, I guess, depends on who the winning bidder is. But we've got some things we might look at selling, so. Just stuff we don't use anymore. Or don't need to have the storage space used up for things we use once every 10 years, so. Or don't use it all. So just a little venture into the electronic world.
The lot at the industrial park, are we pretty well committed to that thing then?
Haven't had a vote on it yet.
Do we need, what's the terms?
Well, apparently 10,000 an acre plus,
Well, they were gonna take back that other lot, so that knocks off 20,000 right off the top. And then if we need fill, we got it on that other lot.
We have some, yeah, we overbuilt that lot, knowing we were probably gonna need extra dirt, so.
It drops way off, we can just take whatever we want.
Well, we own it, we can do whatever we want with it right now, but I mean,
But that was what I understood, was that if we wanted a lot in the new industrial park, they would give us our money back on the old lot, the $20,000.
we're gonna need some fill if we decide to purchase that lot in the industrial park. We'll need some material to bring back in to help level it out.
I went by there Friday or Saturday night, and yeah, it's probably got that built up that much more than it actually needed to be.
I did, I called Mayors and had them give me an estimate of what it was costing, and I didn't bring the numbers with me, but if my memory serves me, we were around, I don't know, $8,000 to get it leveled out and bring dirt in. That was just so I could figure out what a number would be. So. But we've got pretty decent material underneath where on our old lot where we were building it up, so we had less rock in it. Did they send out an email from the industrial, or was there an email I saw? Oh, that was.
well, Kathy Showalter wanted to make sure we
Right.
had the right number,
Right,
number
yep.
and,
It was number 3, wasn't it?
Because they were gonna pave it, right? They were gonna pave in front of that or something. Didn't they have plans on paving that
well,
industrial park?
it wasn't for paving, it was that they got it into the urban renewal, so that, I mean, we basically could pay for the lot, or do work on it, I mean, with, using TIF dollars.
Oh, okay.
Is what they really needed to know about it.
I think it was lot 2. It was the closest one to space age.
I think they put in both lots 2 and 3 just to be safe, but they weren't sure. I mean, I even went said 3 and 4, and I think you're right, it was 2 and 3. And
It was lot, I think it was the smaller of the two, because I compared it to what the Stacyville lot was, and the Stacyville lot's about 2.5 acres. I think lot 2 there is 2.3 or something like that. And we've got a lot of room in Stacyville, but I don't know that we need anything bigger than that there. Yeah, got it somewhere. What are their requirements for, is there a timeline to build? I mean, are they gonna mandate that we gotta have something on there in 10 years, and 5 years, and 3 years? Do they have anything like that built into that?
I don't think they do in the industrial part,
Okay.
they do in their residential, just because of.
Right, because they get taxes and they need to
Well,
start.
they're selling those residential lots real cheap, and that's the reason they done it under residential, but I don't think there's any. certainly St. Ansgar has an outside chance of selling that lot. Somebody's looking at it, but they did not want it to be where, again, that we felt that they were trying to, but they also wanted to make us aware that they were having a slim chance of having somebody take a look at it, so.
Did they get anything on their lot yet, their spec?
I don't know when that's gonna, did you guys bring that up at your meeting?
I think all they said that Paul said something about they're probably gonna do start laying concrete or do, I don't know if they got the piles in last year or not, but the steel's supposed to arrive here pretty quick and they'll probably start erecting it. I thought they did the pilings last fall. I don't know. We should drive up there and look at it sometime and just see what we do got going there.
Yeah, if they're gonna trade us lots, I mean, the purchase of the lot itself should be fairly cheap if we're gonna.
I think we might have to see if Schultz will buy it back and then go the other direction, but.
Yeah, whatever. I know that's what Brenda was telling me one time, that's what would probably happen. So, yeah, I mean, how many acres you talking about?
It's like 2.3, that lot is.
Also, that wouldn't be very much for us. You know, we've already, you know, 20,000, that would be
And I think
10,000 a
that
year.
we were supposed to do the legal work, but I mean, Mark can do that without.
We have an attorney on staff.
Yeah, so I mean, that basically isn't, so like you say, it's basically $3,000 or $4,000 more.
You know, the benefit, I don't know if they care or not, but we could slowly build out there too if we wanted to.
Well, then we've got the other property there too. We don't need
Right.
to own half of St. Ansgar either. You know,
We still gotta, you know, the way the budget worked out, dollar-wise, we gotta be careful. I mean, if we wanna build, we may just have to build slowly. Now, maybe we can put a fuel station out there, or a salt shed out there, and whatever else, but it's a.
you keep forgetting, we're borrowing tip dollars.
Oh, yeah, well then, heck, let's go for it. We're gonna tip it.
Well, what I'm saying is, that's part of the,
I forgot about that, yeah.
that's why that's being put in the urban renewal.
I haven't seen okay.
So that we can use that type of funding to, it's not coming necessarily out of your road use tax or anything like that, so.
I got you. That's why it went in.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I guess,
we
you know,
still
you
need
think
to
about
watch-
it, what is our other lot worth? 40,000?
Oh, that one down.
The one where you're in right now, I don't know what it's worth.
Well, Dean said that if he was to appraise it, he'd appraise it at about $46,000.
Okay.
We got there now. So what's it worth on the open market?
Whatever somebody's willing.
Well, you had 6 or 7 actual entities taking a look at him,
Right.
wanting it, so I think you would have a fairly decent bid on it if you put it up
Oh,
for
yeah, on the old
public.
property, yeah.
Yeah, the old
Yeah,
one
there
there.
were several inquiries about that.
We'll be getting money back probably on this new building.
There's no doubt that a newer building would be more efficient, I mean, as far as utilities.
Well, I remember the
We
first
could have a
day-
lot more room.
Remember the first day Stan took Bob and I in there?
Yeah, I walked in there, you can see through some of the eave.
I'm thinking, this is one of our shops. I mean, holy crap.
Those old
And we were
Resner,
heating it too.
those Resner heaters, they're about as inefficient as
Yeah.
a book of matches. You
Well, my big concern is that we still get that 4th route out of there, you know.
Yeah, we get more equipment, we could, I mean,
Oh, that's
But,
good.
Because T26 is our 2nd busiest road, and.
yeah, you look at the traffic count on that road and it's surprising.
know, that was the whole reason basically for wanting a building, different building, so we get another piece of equipment up there.
Yeah. I guess the long and short of things, the way it looks right now, and we looked at the dollars here a while back, and upfront costs are gonna be cheaper. Long-term, will it be? I guess, you know, do you pay a utility bill versus a sewer septic system or a well, I guess?
Yeah,
the headaches aren't there for us other than paying the bill. And for as much as we're gonna use water, they're minimal costs, I guess. But no, if you guys are wanting to purchase that lot, I would say we wouldn't need anything bigger than that now.
Do we need to do something like an intent to purchase, whether not the actual cash is moving back and forth, or?
Why don't I just give Ivan a call and tell him we're interested and